Hello and welcome to Byju's Exam Prep IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Before we start with the practice questions for the day, we have an announcement. Byju's Exam Prep IAS has launched the Mega Scholarship Program. You can avail up to 60% of discount on our online classroom program as well as offline classroom program. We have very limited number of seats available and this offer is valid only till 30th of May only. So what is that you have to do? Click the link in the pinned comment, register so that you get a call back from our counselors. Let's get started and look into the first practice question. Consider the following pairs. We have the elements on one side, the half-life of these elements on the other side. Carbon 14, 5700 years, calcium 41, 99,400 years, polonium 214, 6.1 hours, selenium 83, 25,000 years. How many pairs given above are correctly matched? The answer to this is only 2 pairs. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to half-life of carbon 14. It also makes a reference to half-life of calcium 41. Let us try and understand what are these statements. When you look into the first statement, carbon 14 has a half-life of 5700 years. This statement is right. Calcium 41 has a half-life of 99,400 years. This statement is also right. However, when it comes to polonium 214, it has a relatively short half-life of just 164 seconds. So the half-life of polonium 214 happens to be 164 seconds. It is not 6.1 hours. Then what we have is selenium 83. This has a half-life of only 25 minutes and it is not 25,000 years. That is why the answer to this would be only 2 pairs. So what is this half-life? Half-life is also known as half-life period. This is used to describe the decay of a particular sample or element within a certain period of time. So basically, if we have to be really specific, it is the time required for a quantity to reduce half of its initial value. So half-life is normally defined as that particular time which is needed by a radioactive substance to disintegrate or transform into a different substance. So what is half-life? Half-life is the time required for a quantity of a substance to reduce to half of its initial value. So this article currently goes on to say that the carbon 14's half-life is about 5700 years, and it also speaks about calcium 41 whose half-life is about 99,400. Now let's look into the next practice question. With reference to Jim Corbett National Park, which of the following statements are correct? It is India's oldest national park and also Asia's first national park. Kosi River traverses the eastern boundary of Jim Corbett National Park. The national park is a protected area covered by the Worldwide Fund for Nature under their Terai Arc Landscape Program. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is 1, 2 and 3. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to Jim Corbett National Park, which is why we have taken this practice question. Back in the year 1936, India's first national park was established as Haley National Park. This was named after the then governor of United Province, that is Uttar Pradesh back then, British India, that is Sir Malcolm Haley. This also happens to be Asia's first national park as well, and the minute this national park was created, they prevented and stopped hunting, killing, capturing of mammals, and all these activities were ultimately brought to an end and was prohibited. So when the government of India launched Tiger program in 1973, the park became a part of this particular project. The reserve is located between Sivalik Himalayas and the Terai. The park is famous for Royal Bengal tigers and Asiatic elephants. The park has 6 ecotourism zones, namely Dikala, Bijrani, Jirna, Sonanandi, Durga Devi and Thela. The national park is a protected area covered by the Wildlife Fund for Nature under the Terai Arc Landscape Program. So if we look into the statements, the first statement is right. Which are the rivers that goes through this particular national park? What we have is the Ramganga River. We have the Ramganga River, which happens to be the lifeline for the Corbett National Park, and we also have the Kosi River, which also traverses eastern boundary of the Jim Corbett National Park. Which are the other rivers which flow through this particular park is what you have to put on the comment section. So are there any rivers which pass through this national park? Please put it on the comment section. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which of the following statements are incorrect? In India, an individual must be minimum of 18 years of age to obtain a firearm license. The duration of the validity of a firearm license is 3 years. Which of the statements are incorrect? Do note, it is asking for the incorrect statement, so the answer to this is both. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to the Arms Act, which is why we have taken this practice question. When you look into the first statement, in India, an individual must be minimum of 18 years of age. This happens to be a wrong statement. Why? Because the minimum age to procure, get a licensed gun or the arms happens to be 21 years and it is not 18 years. So the first statement is wrong. The duration of the validity of a firearm license is for 3 years. This once again is a wrong statement. Why? Because it happens to be 5 years. So if license is given to you, if you are able to hold a particular arm or a gun, that period for which you would be able to have a valid license is for about 5 years from the date of sanction of this particular license. So it is not 3 years, but instead it is 5 years. It is not 18 years of age, but instead it is 21 years of age. So an individual who is above 21 years of age will only be given the license to get a firearm license. So when it comes to arms license in India, it is governed by the Arms Act of 1959. Basically, it is this act which provides guidelines for keeping the arms. It governs matters related to acquisition, possession, manufacture, sale, transportation, import and also export of arms and ammunition. Through this particular law, we have the government officials who would also be able to exercise their powers. And do note, if there is a person who is of unsound mind, if he has been convicted in any of the violence act in the past, in that case this person may not be given the license to hold the arms and he would not be given the firearm license as well. Added to it, whenever we speak about firearms, it is for the self defense, so he should be given a license. So this license, for getting the license, he has to make an application where the licensing authority happens to be the Ministry of Home, that is the Home Ministry. They will have a fixed process, and once all these processes are followed, we have the DM, that is the state government, which will be providing the license. So when you consider the second statement, the duration of the validity of firearm is about 5 years. So remember, there was a recent amendment that was made back in the year 2019. As per these amendments, a person can have a maximum of 2 firearms as against the norm of 3. Now let's look into the next practice question. With respect to Mahadayi River, which of the following statements are correct? Mahadayi River rises in the Western Ghats from Bhimghat Wildlife Sanctuary in Kanpur Taluk of Karnataka's Bijapur district. The river travels 35 km in Karnataka, 82 km in Goa before joining the Arabian Sea. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is 2 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to Mahadayi River. So this Mahadayi River happens to be also called as Mahadayi, and it stretches about 111 km. So where does it rise? It rises in the state of Karnataka, yes, but it is not in Bijapur district, but instead it happens to be Belagavi district. So remember, it is not Bijapur, but instead it happens to be Belagavi district, and it ultimately joins the Arabian Sea at Panaji, and two-thirds of this river flows in the state of Goa, that is about 82 km, and the rest flows in Karnataka. Mandovi and Chuari are the two major rivers in the state of Goa, and When it comes to Mahadayi River, there are states which are fighting for it. There is dispute between two states. Which are these two states which have a dispute with respect to Mahadayi River is what you have to put on the comment section. Now let's look into the next practice question. The authorization for the withdrawal of funds from the Consolidated Fund of India must come from the President of India, the Parliament of India, the Prime Minister of India, the Union Finance Minister. The answer to this is the Parliament of India. This happens to be a previous year question from the year 2011. So it is the Parliament which has the power to authorize by law the withdrawal of money from the Consolidated Fund of India for the purposes for which the grants have been sanctioned. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is Japan's stock market boom and what lessons we can adapt from Japan. When you consider Japan, it was going through a very bad phase. There was recession in Japan. People were not ready to invest in the market, and at the same time, there was also skyrocketing inflation in Japan as well, and markets were not doing that good. That is, the security market were not doing good. But all of a sudden, what we are witnessing is Japan's stock market are booming with stocks hitting their 33 years high as well. Why? That is because there are a couple of reasons for the same. When you look into the stock market, we have to consider two important stock market indices. So remember the broad topics index. So when we speak about topics index, it is the index with respect to Japan. Added to it, we have the Nikkei 225 index. This is also with respect to Japan. So what we have is two major indices. One happens to be topics index, the other happens to be Nikkei 225 index. It is these two indices which actually give a clear-cut picture about the stock market in Japan. When you consider what are the reasons for the revival of the stock market in Japan, Japan's economy emerged from the recession. So they had the recession, they also had COVID-19 issues as well. So immediately after COVID-19 was passed, they were able to invest in the market. Added to it, the Japanese security market regulator also wanted companies to maintain high governance standards as well. And when companies started reciprocating with high governance standards, because they came out of the recession, they also became profitable as well. These governance standards were met by the companies. Added to it, they were also able to garner the profits as well. So on one side, the governance standards in Japan start it improving because companies started implementing, and after they came out of the recession, people also started buying products as well. Inflation was also kept under check as well, and these people started investing. The profits of the company also skyrocketed. So on the basis of the governance and the profits, what we have is a booming market. So as a result, there were number of foreign companies which started investing in Japan. So on one side, foreign companies started withdrawing from India. You had foreign companies who were investing in options and futures and stock market in Japan. This becomes the major advantage for Japan. So what are the lessons that we would be able to draw from Japan? One, we have to ensure that there is governance standards. What exactly happened in India? We had couple of reports that came from the international units. One was with respect to Hindenburg against Adani Group. Then we have also had issues with respect to the mutual funds as well. Then we have had issues with respect to insider trading as well. When we have such issues in the market, the foreign companies may not trust the Indian markets. Why? Because there are certain loopholes in the system. There is insider trading. There is also issues with how the company is working. The governance standards are not matching up as well. On one side, you have Japan, where standards of governance has improved. Corporate governance is also being accepted by the companies. But in India, the same standards are not being followed. In order to ensure that we do have inflows to India, what we have to work is on the governance model. The corporate governance mechanisms will have to be implemented at the maximum optimum level, is what is this article all about. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this topic. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.